have shared. Awesome, you're recording. So from the few people who shared already in the beginning, I could hear there's definitely a lot of passion, excitement, and these are some of the words that I jotted down that came to my mind. So if you have different words, or if you agree with these words, you can pop them into the chat, see where you're at with different people. So some of the more positive words that came to mind when I was thinking of my work is that it can be challenging in a positive way. It can be exciting and motivating, but it can also become overwhelming and stressful. Collaborative, that's awesome. That's very awesome. I'm sure if you're all thinking of your words, you'll see that we all have some different thoughts that we come up with, different words that we have. But there's also going to be a lot of shared experiences and shared feelings between us all. So, as I mentioned previously, mental health encompasses the three elements, and what David mentioned as well, our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And so we're thinking of our mental health within these three spheres. Now, some elements of our mental health can definitely be developed through our work life. Employment is seen as a major protective factor for our mental health. Employment and work can improve your mental health through giving you a daily purpose. It provides an income. It can promote your independence. You can have wonderful social interactions, and it can increase one's self-esteem and confidence. So some examples of this that I was thinking of, and specifically within those three spheres, are if you're a part of a team with people you really get along well with, or you work with a friend, or your office has some like really great social interactions and team get-togethers, even like these presentations and groups that you guys have, you get to improve the social element of your mental health at work. For some of us, and that I can definitely hear for a lot of you, our work is our passion. So you maybe find that the work you do is really rewarding, and in this way it adds to your psychological mental health. And then also maybe you have a really supportive supervisor or manager or teammate, and you're able to develop your emotional mental health at work. However, the pressures and stresses of the work environment can be unavoidable. And there are many situations where your mental health will be challenged and brought down in the workplace. So while employment is considered this strong protective factor from the negative mental impacts of unemployment, a negative work environment can also lead to physical and mental harm. So some risk factors to your mental health that you may experience at work are encountering poor health and safety policies, poor communication and management practices within the company, exclusion from decision-making or limited control over your own work area. There could be low or no levels of employee support. You could be facing really inflexible working hours, or be presented with unclear tasks and objectives. So a lot of these elements depend on the company you work for and what you do, your work environment, and the style of the managers or supervisors that you encounter. So as a note to anyone in here who is a manager, a boss, a supervisor, there is a lot that you can do to promote your employees' mental health. You can ensure these health and safety policies. You can actively promote mental health in the workplace. You can start the conversation and let employees know that support is available. You can involve your employees or your people you work with in decision-making processes, and you can consider flexible approaches to the workday where possible. I know for so many working environments, it's near impossible to consider kind of flexible approaches. So maybe even in that consideration or in that circumstance, you can consider it when the employee is in need. So yeah, while these are the elements that can be improved by the company or our supervisors or bosses, or maybe even due to the working environment that we're involved in, they can't be improved. There are also elements of mental health in the workplace that do come down to us. individually. There are things that we can do ourselves to improve our experiences. And that's where finding a work-life balance is so crucial. It can be easy to normalize working really long hours or being under extreme amounts of stress, especially if we've been doing it for a long time, or if all of our colleagues are in the same boat. So our assumptions and habits around work can become deep-rooted unless we take a step back once in a while. So a healthy work-life balance will look different for different people. This balance can completely depend on you, your goals, and your passions in life. For someone whose passion is their career, their work-life balance may have a few more hours of working on what they're doing in comparison to someone whose passion is outside of their career. For someone who's married and has kids, their time spent outside of the workplace will look different to someone who is interested in traveling or working on a hobby or anything like that. So ultimately, a work-life balance is about you personally feeling fulfilled and content in both your work and in your personal life outside of work. In the blue bubble on the screen, I've highlighted some aspects of what a healthy work-life balance can look like. So it can look like you meeting your deadlines at work or the work goals that you've set for yourself, while still having time to spend with friends, family, or on your hobbies. You have enough time in your day to get an adequate amount of sleep, and you are able to eat healthily. And both of these things can look different to different people. And you are not constantly stressing about work when you're at home. So now, when you have a big deadline coming up or there's a big project you're working on, an amount of stress is expected. We're all still human and these things weigh on us. And it's hard to not bring that home with you. It's kind of hard to compartmentalize our thoughts like that. But it becomes a concern when this kind of stress that you're bringing home is happening more often than not, and you're struggling to relax and take your mind off of work when you don't need to have your mind on your work. So yeah, as I've said, it's not always possible to make changes at work. If you're on a probation period, you might not feel comfortable speaking up, or you might need to work long hours to earn enough money to pay your bills. But for those who can make changes, the research suggests regularly checking your work-life balance. So you can consider this little scale of things on one side and the other, where you're balancing your work and you're balancing your home and external life. So a good work-life balance has numerous positive effects, including less stress, a greater sense of well-being, even improved work performance, and a decreased risk of burnout. So burnout, this is referred to as the occupational phenomenon because it results from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. As this heightened level of stress continues, the person begins to lose interest and lose motivation. Burnout itself is characterized by 3 dimensions, being emotional exhaustion and fatigue, having a newly developed mental distance from your work, and new feelings of negativity towards your work. Now, I'm sure we've all had days when we felt a couple of the symptoms of burnout. We've all gone through stressful, busy, high pressure situations at work or university or anything. But this starts to become a problem when you're feeling like this most of the time or more often than not. So burnout itself can be a gradual process. It isn't necessarily going to happen overnight. So it can creep up on you before you realize what's going on. So I've just jotted down here some of the few main symptoms and signs. So some of the physical symptoms are you noticing you're feeling more tired and drained. You frequently have headaches or muscle pain. Your appetite or eating habits and sleeping habits have changed from what they used to be. And even you're noticing lowered immunity. So you might feel sick more frequently, get the flu more frequently, something like that. Some of the emotional signs is you might be feeling increased amounts of self-doubt. You may be feeling helpless or trapped, or feeling detached or alone. You may notice decreased motivation with an increase in negativity and an overall decreased sense of accomplishment in what you're doing at work. Some of the behavioral signs is you may notice that you're isolating yourself. You may be withdrawing from responsibilities, procrastinating to a point where you're not getting work done. Some people even turn to alcohol and substances to cope with these feelings. And you may also notice yourself taking out your frustration on others. So if you start to notice any of these symptoms in yourself, you can consider them your red flags and that you need to start reducing the stress in your life or thinking about how you can improve your situation. So before we get into kind of more how you can help yourselves, I also wanted to touch on the impact that COVID-19 has had. We can't forget on how it's affected our work environments and how this has affected our work-life balance. I think it's today we got the news that we're out of state of disaster, so that's quite interesting, and we'll see how that affects all of us. I know us in the M1 class, we're really looking forward to getting back to learning in a classroom environment instead of online, so we're really hoping that's our future. But honestly, the past 2 years, COVID-19 has given us 2 years of constantly changing work environments. Some people faced unemployment at the beginning of the pandemic. Healthcare workers faced extremely high workloads with very high workplace risk, and other people had to face the challenge of working from home. And over the 2 years, there have been constant adjustments, lockdown levels, and high and lows in case numbers. This constant disruption in routine has looked different to everyone. So I know, especially restaurant workers, they faced constant employment, unemployment, employment, unemployment at every increased lockdown. Office workers were moved constantly between the office and home, and healthcare workers had to face the ever-changing patient needs. So it's been years of adapting, adjusting, and facing each new challenge as it comes, and it's brought about very specific mental health needs. So just to go through what I have on the slide, it constantly changed the working environment. It increased the daily stresses we all faced. It blurred the lines between work and home. For most, if not all of us, it decreased our social interactions dramatically. And people were faced with a newfound forced form of isolation. And of course, people face new fears around health and safety in everyday life and in the office. So from what we know from studies, what the researchers found helped was when a culture of mental health conversations was created and maintained in a workspace. By formalizing that we have all experienced some level of anxiety, loneliness, and isolation, it helped to normalize these feelings and allowed people to feel comfortable in sharing these feelings. So in this case, when leadership is open or co-workers are open with one another, it helps build this culture in the workplace that can address mental health and the challenges people are facing. So along this line of what we can do, here are a few steps that you could take to improve your work-life balance. And so the first step that I always look at is understanding your rights at work. So know in your contract, in your agreement, know what your expected working hours are, know what sick leave you're allowed, parental leave you're allowed, what paid holiday leave you're allowed. Understand these kinds of elements of your contract. And this can help you stand up for yourself and what you need with a little bit more confidence. You can approach these conversations knowing what you deserve and what you can ask for and stand up for. Then I Also, try speaking up when your workload is too high or when you're feeling overwhelmed. So I know this is hard depending on your manager, your supervisor, your environment, but managers also need to know where the pressures lie in order to create a space of help and to help you. So it can help start a conversation, and it can help allow your manager to know where the stresses lie and like where they should start helping you face these problems. And then I've always heard work smarter, not harder, but work smarter, not longer is also very applicable in the workplace. By planning and managing your time and reducing time spent in unstructured or unnecessary meetings or work, it'll help you get through the work that you need to get done in a day. And hopefully you can get through it in office hours. Scheduling can also help you know that you've done what you need to do. So you've ticked off what you need to do, you've got it done in those hours, and you're doing this instead of getting home and then stressing that maybe you've missed something, you've missed a deadline, you've missed an email, you've missed something. So that kind of schedule can help give you a little bit of peace of mind and reduce extra stress. Similarly, schedule your time outside of work. Make sure that you are dedicating some of your time to your friends or family, to your hobbies, whatever brings you joy. And I always think with this is, at first, like the recommendation is to schedule your time to make sure you're doing it. And then hopefully with that schedule, it becomes a habit and something that you do without having to write down and schedule time for friends and family. And then one that I know I was guilty of when I was at my workplace, take your lunch breaks. Don't sit at your desk and eat. Go to another room, or if you can, go sit outside, because you need these breaks during the day. I know where I used to work, so often we would just sit at our desk and carry on working while eating our lunch, and it's just not giving you that mental break, like stepping away from your computer and looking at a different wall or looking at some plants outside just really relaxes your mind, and it also kind of brings you back in another more motivated space where you can carry on working, but maybe at a better pace or in a better mind space. And then it's important to draw a reasonable line between work and home. I know sometimes it's really hard not to bring extra work home with us. And if something needs to be done, then it needs to be done. But by trying to keep work at work and home at home, it can help you relax and switch off once you are at home. And an important note with COVID here is that that line became really difficult to distinguish. You're working at home and your home is your work, and it just got very confusing. But that's where going back to kind of scheduling your hours of work and scheduling time that you will dedicate to family and friends can help. Like knowing, hey, we're definitely sitting down and having dinner at 6 o'clock at night, and it forces you to break that workspace. I think that's a really important approach to take. And then you can engage in stress reducing activities. So try to eat healthily, try to get enough sleep, try to get some exercise in. Maybe you can go for a small walk with your loved ones and combine the two activities. But ultimately, what you're doing in these acts of helping yourself is setting boundaries. By setting boundaries for yourself, it'll help guide you to know when to speak up for yourself, when to take breaks, and when and how to schedule your time. So everyone's boundaries will be different as they reflect the limits that we have set for ourselves based on our goals, our personality, and what we personally find important. But these healthy boundaries that you set allow for accountability, respect, and open communication. So some key elements of healthy boundaries includes valuing your own opinion, respecting the limits that you've set for yourself, not compromising your values for someone else, effectively communicating your needs and wants, being able to say no, and accepting no from other people. So now, while I've gone through some of the actions you can take to help yourself and to increase your work-life balance and to prevent ultimately feeling burnt out, such as setting these boundaries. We're now going to take a quick look at what you can do if you do start to feel burnt out. So if you recognize the warning signs of impending burnout, just trying to push through this exhaustion and continuing as you have been will only cause further emotional and physical damage. When you notice these signs, this is the time to pause and change direction by learning how you can help yourself and overcome burnout and ultimately feel healthy and positive again. So there's the suggested 3R approach. First R is recognize, so watching out for the warning signs of burnout. Second one is reverse, so undo the damage by seeking support and learning how to manage your stress. And then resilience, which is building your own resilience to stress by taking care of your physical and emotional health. If you are experiencing any of the symptoms and signs I've mentioned and think you may be or becoming burnt out, you can start by evaluating your options, discuss your concerns with a supervisor or a manager, and hopefully having an honest and open conversation can help you adjust expectations as a team. And maybe you can reach some compromise or solution together. I think an important thing to do is looking at what must get done and what can wait when you are feeling like this. You can seek support. So reach out to a co-worker, a family member, a friend, or even a professional. Support and collaboration may help you cope. Again, you can try a relaxing activity. So whatever you think may work for you. And it doesn't have to be long. It can be a really short walk outside or a quick yoga or meditation session. Activities can help you release tension and clear your mind. And then also trying to get some exercise. And I know I'm guilty of putting off exercise when I have a lot of deadlines coming up, because it feels like it's less important. When you have something to hand in tomorrow, getting that extra few minutes to work on that deadline feels more important at that moment, but it really isn't, because exercise is such an important part of dealing with stress. So what I suggest in this is setting realistic goals or boundaries. So a boundary that I set for myself, because I know this M1 year, this master's year in psychology is really busy and everyone's warned me going into it, it's super busy. So I set a boundary that I will always go to 2 of my exercise classes in a week. Even when things are busy, those 2 aren't optional. And then anything else I do on top of that is a bonus. But I knew I had to set this boundary because when I'm facing deadlines, I put these things off because they don't feel important to me. So that's something I'm trying this year. And then another important step is getting some sleep. And I'm sure we're also all guilty of this when we have deadlines coming up. And sometimes even stress and anxiety can prevent our sleep. But we all know that sleep restores well-being and it's a really, really important health protective factor. And then practicing mindfulness. So this is the act of focusing on your breath flow and being intensely aware of what you are sensing and feeling in that moment. So in a work environment, this would look like facing situations with openness and patience. And now on that note of mindfulness, I have a 5-minute video for us to watch, and it takes us through a really short mindfulness meditation session. I wanted to end on this to show you how a relaxation activity can be really quick, but also really effective. So you can start getting comfy and I will share the video. Please do let me know if you can't hear the video.
No sound yet.
I can't hear.
Oh, sorry, okay. Thank you for letting me know. I think there is a setting that I have to, there we go. Let me know if you can hear us.
Hey there, and thanks for gifting yourself these next few minutes.
Thank you.
It's important to remember that you're a priority, and allowing yourself even just a few short minutes of intentional reflection can really have a positive impact on the rest of your day. So let's use these next few minutes to come back to center and set an intention for the rest of your day. Move into a comfortable position, whether you're seated at your desk at work or laying on the couch at home, and gently close your eyes and shift all of your attention onto your breathing, taking slower, deeper breaths than you've taken all day so far. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and slowly letting it out through your mouth. And continuing to breathe that way, feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale and contract back in as you exhale. Tune into your body, noticing how it feels, noticing if there's anything that it's trying to tell you. Notice any place of tension or tightness in your body. And give those areas permission to relax, sending love into those areas. Thank your body for taking such good care of you, and let it know that it's okay to rest and relax for these next few minutes. You may notice that your mind starts to wander off. That's okay. That's natural. Just notice it and bring your attention back to your body, using your breath as your anchor. Try to picture one thing that's happened today that's made you smile, or made you thankful or appreciative. And just let that feeling fill you up for a moment. Breathe that feeling in from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And allow yourself to smile if that feels natural. Now focus on something that you can do today, whether it's for yourself or for someone else, that will allow you to continue feeling this way. It could be something as small as deciding to go to bed early tonight, so that you have time to finally read that book that's been on your bedside table. Or the joy of getting dinner with a close friend. What's one little thing you can plan for your day to bring that intentional joy to it? Now just focus on that for a few minutes. Sit in that feeling of joy and peace. Now let's take a few more deep breaths together. A deep breath in, feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale, and everything contract back in as you exhale. Again, an even deeper breath than the one before it, holding that breath for a beat, and exhaling everything out. Last time, your deepest breath yet, sending that breath through your entire body. And exhale it out. And in your own time, slowly bring your awareness back to where you are. and thank yourself for taking these few minutes to just be intentional and kind to yourself. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and enjoy the rest of your day.
Great. So on that very calming and peaceful note, that's the end of my presentation. I really hope you got at least one thing out of it, or one thing might help you in the week coming up. But thank you for the opportunity to present. And if anyone has any questions or any comments, yeah, we can have a bit of a discussion now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for a lovely presentation and that wonderful video at the end of it, just reminding us to take time out even during our busy work days. Has anyone got any questions or comments that they'd like to share?
Hi, good morning again. Kelsey, thank you again. I think for me, your presentation was very much, on point. For me, yes, PhD student, but still has to work. And so sometimes, yes, you enjoy the interactions with your colleagues and everything, but there are times when, sometimes you can find your days becoming very crowded. And you want to step back, but you're hesitant. But I think your presentation has sort of given me some things to consider. So I just want to say thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate that. And I think that's, yeah, an interesting touch there where you're getting that social element, but it's also distracting. And if it gets to a point where you're not finishing what you need to get done in the day, then it is hard, but it's good to set those boundaries. Thank you. Elliot, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I would like to thank you very much for this presentation. And it fits well with the last week's session. And
what did you cover last week?
we covered especially feelings.
Yes.
And and the communication part of it. Like, when you are stressed and or when you have got you feel angry, and you know how to handle your feelings, so as to avoid hurting other people. In other words, like the importance of being in touch with your feelings, and then not to, if you feel that you are angry, just to hold yourself, not to, express yourself, or not to maybe respond to something when you are still angry, and start thinking about your feelings, that I'm feeling angry now, and why am I so angry? Like the issues of displacement, because otherwise you will get angry at home, and then when you come at work and suddenly you displace those feelings to other workers. So same thing, if you've got the burnout at work and the feelings are also there, and you may even, it's also very important to be in touch with them and to express them in a more appropriate manner. But I also want to thank you so much about the relaxation exercises. And I did use them before. They are extremely helpful. I had a problem. I was studying, working at the same time, and I had a problem with the management. So I had a lot of stress. And because I decided to go to student counseling, because I felt that I was really having some problems. So they were able to assist me, especially with the relaxation exercises. So before I started working, I will take maybe just 10 minutes in the office, sit in a couch and then close my eyes, relax. And what was very interesting is that the technique that I was using, when breathing in, I would count 1 while breathing in. So that will stop all other thoughts. So it was like emptying my brain, and I could feel that I was actually feeling much, much better. And then by the time I start my work, I used to feel very fresh and healthy, and it was very useful. And I remember when I had to write three theory papers, second year, 3 theory papers, 2 on the same day and 1 on the following day. So, and I went to the to the counseling psychologist. They told me, and he told me to sleep early, around about 10 o'clock, and maybe wake up in the morning, and do some touch-ups, and then go for an exam. So it worked very, very well. And I wrote the first paper in the afternoon, the following day in the morning, second paper, and then the third one in the afternoon. So I was so energetic. So it was really helping, not to stress. Yeah.
That's really awesome. And you've touched on, I think, 3 points of what came up in scheduling and prioritizing your sleep and practicing mindfulness. So that's really awesome. Thank you for sharing, Elias. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Niraj, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Kelsey, for the insightful presentation. I have 2 points to make. One is on the coping strategy. So as my work involves primarily working and visiting some of the stores as I'm in retail. So one of the coping mechanism which I found out is, fortunately, most of them are in shopping malls. So I take my wife along with me, and while I'm working, and even at the cost of additional expenditure, because when I let her loose in terms of shopping, it's a drain on the pocket, but when I do the cost benefit, so at least we get to spend time together, as you rightly said. And I'm able to visit few of the stores, which is my responsibility in my work. That was one. And secondly, with regards to the mindfulness, one of the things which I think works well is, especially when you're nourishing your body, that means when you drink, or you drink any liquid, or you take food, I try not to watch any of the electronic gadgets. So many people watch television when they eat, or they are on their mobile phone. And that's something which I realized, especially when you're putting something in your body to nourish it, you should be mindful of what you're doing. And that's one of the things which I feel works for me. So these were 2 things which I thought I would want to share. And one thing which I did write, and has been covered to a large extent in your presentation and the meditation exercise you talked about. But wanted to just understand, would you want to elaborate a bit on the role of spirituality when it comes to mental wellness?
No, that's a good point. So just to comment on what you've said, I appreciate how you bring your wife forward. That's a good way of combining activities. But yeah, on the role of spirituality, I didn't touch on that, but that's, I think it can play a very important role. In my master's class, I know we have quite a few religious people, and it's kind of like, I think it ties into your scheduling and your boundaries, where one of my co-workers, she has church on Sundays and then home group in the week. And similarly to how I've said, I will go to my 2 gym classes. She says she will always go to her church, and she will always go to her home group, because that's what brings her joy during the week. And that's what brings peace and this kind of like nourishment to her soul in the week. And that's how she copes with our deadlines and everything around us. So I think we're very tempted often, if there's a deadline on a Wednesday and home groups on a Tuesday, to stop doing that and focus in on the deadline. But it's really important to focus in on if this brings you joy. And I think spirituality is a really important part of being human, and to have this kind of connection, if it's with within a religion or if it's within just a kind of general meditative spirituality. If it brings you peace and joy in the day, it's really important to, schedule that into your life and make sure you keep it as a priority.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Kelsey.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelsey, for being with us today. Thank you so much to the SSS team for arranging this fantastic session. I learned a lot. I learned especially that I didn't realize what burnout actually means and how to counteract it. So very insightful. Thank you so much. So it's gone 4:30 right now. Thank you so much, everybody, for your participation within this session. The SSS team will be back with us next week, and I will be sending out an advertisement for that. We do have a recording of this session. We'll put it up on the UKZN YouTube site for anybody who would like to revisit Kelsey's vast information in this session. And you can always get in contact with the SSS team. I see Suzanne has sent through some information within the chat box as well. The needs assessment, as well as the evaluation of the Doctoral Academy support program. Please link your browser to that website to fill in those. And she also says you can book a session through email, chs.sss@ukzn.ac.za. And on that fantastic note, thank you again so much for being part of our session, Kelsey and the SSS team, and we look forward to next week's session. Tomorrow, don't forget, we've got the Doctoral Academy at 3:30 Wednesday. Stay tuned for that. Thank you very much, everyone. See you next Tuesday.
Thank
Goodbye.
you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.